Alright guys, so in today's video we will be discussing about AWS EC2 instances. Alright, and then I have prepared a kind of small architecture, and then we will also be discussing about Amazon VPC, which is virtual private cloud, and then we will be creating different type of subnets, and then private subnet and the public subnet. We will try to deploy EC2 instances in the public subnet and the private subnet, and we will also go over the flow of traffic, how to enable the flow of traffic inside these EC2 instances in private and public subnet. So this is kind of a 5000 overview diagram that I have created here. So in this diagram, if you see, there are multiple components involved, right? And then just to make this video a little fancy, I have made these arrows and everything, right? These are flowing realistically. So you see, there are several components involved, resources involved, cloud resources involved in order to deploy this architecture in the AWS. So first we have VPC, right? So I'll go one by one to the components. I'll give an introduction, and then we will deep dive later in the video, other part of video, where we will go over into AWS resources and try implement and deploying them. So first of all, we have Amazon VPC, which is virtual private cloud, isolated logical network assigned to you in the AWS infra, where your all resources can be logically connected, right? And then you have subnets. So let's say, assume that Amazon VPC is a numbering system from 1 to 100, but you want to create separate you want to divide 100 numbers into n number of groups. So let's say you assign 1 to 20 number and you call it public subnet. Okay, so that's another logical grouping inside your Amazon VPC. So that's how you do the grouping. Let's say if you want to expose something to public, you will create a different subnet, right? So though that subnet will have a different IP address space, and you can deploy your things to your subnet, and then you can do a whitelisting, etc. All security group, you can assign security groups to that subnet, and you can define the routes for that subnet. All those things you can do within your subnet. Then we have public subnet and the private subnet. So we will be creating two subnet as part of this exercise. One instance that I do not want to expose to my public, right, publicly. So that instance I will deploy in the private subnet, and then I will create another Amazon EC2 instance in order to access this restricted private EC2 instance, right? So this EC2 instance will be acting as a jump server for me. Okay, so because I only want to use this server within my virtual private cloud. I don't want to use it from my local computer. So that's the security restriction I want to implement here. All right. Then we have internet gateway. In order to enable the internet access into your VPC, you need to have your internet gateway. So the way it will work is from outside world, the traffic will flow to your internet gateway, and from internet gateway it will be rerouted to your Amazon EC2 instance. All right. And then this the route I just spoke about, your public to internet gateway to your EC2, this route will be defined in somewhere. That somewhere is known as your route table. So that's the route table which has the routes defined. And then we have NAT gateway. NAT gateway is used to enable inbound internet connectivity in your Amazon EC2 in your private subnet. All right, especially for private subnet. So because in the private subnet, what we will do, how we will restrict, we will do application security group. So there is something application security group. I will also, let me write it down. Security group, right? And then I will use let's say I will use the security group. So there will be two security group, one security group here, all right, and then one security group here. All right, so all this traffic will be flowing. Yeah, so internet gateway will go through the security group of public subnet, and then the traffic will flow from the NAT gateway to your Amazon EC2 via your this security group of private subnet. Alright, so this is security group where you define all your restrictions, that you don't want to allow SSH, you want to allow SSS, you don't want to allow HTTP. All those inbound connections and outbound connection you want to open, you don't want to open, all those things you define in your security groups. Alright, so now let's move on. And then, okay, there is some diagram mistake. Yeah, now it's correct. Okay. So now let's go to your AWS cloud and try deploying this architecture, and then we will do a deep dive and go through all the cloud resources. Alright guys, so I will go to my AWS and I'll go to VPC section. I'll create a VPC. Although I already have VPCs, but I'll create, just for the exercise, I'll create a new VPC. So I'll call this VPC as my, let's say, learning lecture VPC. Alright, and then I'll define a seeder block. So this is the address, IP address space I have to define here. So I'll say 24. Alright, so now you have IPAM as well. So this is IPAM is a group of IP addresses. When you are dealing with organization level cloud resource, you might have to use many IPs. So what you do, you create a pool of IP addresses, and then you, from that pool, you pick up your IP address. But here we are not using that, so I'll simply assign IP seeder range here. And then I will, and if you go to VPC and more, it will automatically create subnets and all routes for you. We don't, if we do that, we will lose all the important concepts to understand. So we will not do that. We will simply say VPC only, and we will create your create our VPC. Alright, so seems like we do have VPC, and then if you see, along with the VPC creation, there is a route table also has been created. So if you go to route table, you will see that we will have routes. So it says destination. So currently it has a default route, right? It has a default route where we say that whatever comes in the within VPC is pass it to local, which is active, and we don't have any other route, right? Go back to our VPC, which is learning lecture VPC. Now let's create two subnets. Okay, now I'll create one subnet. I'll learning lectures, and then I'll create public subnet. I will not keep any availability zone here. Alright, so I'll say 24, and then I will do a range. So 0, 28, let's say. So it will have 16 IPs. So the total IPs will be inside the total number of IPs that I can use inside within my public subnet will be 16 IPs. All right. So I'll create this subnet. Okay. So seems like this subnet has been created. All right. So now what I could do is, if I go back to my VPC, I'll go back here, internet gateway. Okay, so this VPC has my public subnet. So that if you see that that's the flow basically, the connectivity, right? So you have public subnet, and this public subnet will be governed using a route table. All the routes, right? All the traffic flow will be governed using this route table. So I'll go back, and then let me pick up this VPC here, and then I'll go back, and then I'll create another subnet. I will pick up learning lecture. Alright guys, so this I will name it as private subnet. And then I'll give the IP range .64.28. Alright, so my private subnet will also have 16 IPs, right? The maximum IPs allowed 16 IPs. I will create this subnet as well. So as per our architecture, I have created this VPC, this part, and then this part and this part, right? So now I will create one Amazon EC2 instance for me. Okay, I will go back. So I'll go to my VPC I'll go to here and see this learning lecture VPC has these two subnets, private subnet and then public subnet. All right, and then these subnets will be governed using this route table. Okay, now what I'll do, I will create a different route table for my private subnet, and I'll keep one for my public subnet. All right, so I'll go here. So or maybe I can create it later, because first let me provision the EC2 instance, right? There's no point of creating the route table as of now. Now what I'll do, I'll go to EC2. I'll go here and then I'll say launch EC2 instance. Okay, and then I'll call learning lecture VPC. I'll say public. Alright, so now I will select this AWS by default image. I'll use all these free tier, and then I'll use the key one. I already have a key pair. Okay, key pair. So this is the key to access the EC2 instance later, right? To get it connected using SSH. So now it says security group. You create a security group. So what I'll do, I will say, okay, create a security group and then allow SSH access from anywhere. So when I say anywhere, from my local computer, from the internet, from anywhere, right? And then I allow HTTP and HTTPS as well. Okay, and let me select the VPC, learning lecture VPC, and I'll select the subnet, public subnet. Okay, now I will also enable the public IP, so it will automatically assign an elastic public IP to my EC2 instance, so I can connect that using, so that will act as a first point for my EC2 instance. Now I'll launch my instance. Okay, so my instance is ready here. All right, so it's in pending state. Give some time to get it ready. All right, guys, so this instance is ready now. Okay, so if you go inside, you see it is connected to my learning lecture VPC, and this is inside my public subnet. All right, now if you go to okay, so there is no public IP assigned yet, right? Okay, so there is no public IP assigned yet. There is a public IP right here, but it's not elastic IP. You can create an elastic IP. So the basic difference between public IP and elastic IP: private IP is your private IP, which is internal and specifically subjected to your VPC, right? However, public IP is something which you could use to access a resource from outside world. Now the difference between elastic IP and public IP is, let's say you shut down your resource, and then next time when you run your resource, you will again get a public IP. However, that public IP will be different from the last one. So, but if you want to keep a static IP address for your resource in AWS cloud, you have to use elastic IP address. So that's the basic difference between public and the elastic. So here we have public IP. It will suffice our requirement. Although if you want to have an elastic IP, you can create an elastic IP. All right. Then if you go to monitoring security, you will see that this is the security group, which is and these are the inbound rules. All right, so SSH and all these ports are open to get it connect from the public internet. So we were able to complete this part. So we created this, and we created this. All right, now let's try to connect with this instance from our local computer. Okay, I'll go here, I'll try to connect, and then I already have key one pair. So I'll say yeah, K1. I already have this key So I'll say this. I will try to connect with my, because if I went to connect to my instance and then I clicked on SSH client and then I copied this example. Okay, I'll click enter. So you see, this will get timeout. This won't work. And now there is an important concept to understand why it is not working, right? So you see, this will get timeout after some time. So reason it's not working, let's go back to our diagram. So this is the source of truth. You see, in order to flow the traffic from outside world, the internet, to your VPC, within your VPC to Amazon EC2 instance, you need to have an internet gateway, right? You have the security group, but you need to have an internet gateway. That is the reason that's how from your traffic from internet will flow inside your VPC, and within VPC to your EC2 instance inside your public subnet. So we have not created an internet gateway yet. That is the reason we are not able to connect with this Amazon EC2 instance. So let's now create one internet gateway. All right, so you see it's still not connected. So I'll go back, and then I will go back. There are several. Yeah, I'll go back here. I'll go to VPC, and then I will go to, I'll select this. I'll go to internet gateways. I'll create one internet gateway, right? So I'll say learning lecture internet gateway. Okay, and then I'll create this. Okay, so now it's in detached state. It's not attached to any VPC yet. So I will have to attach to this to a VPC. So I'll connect this learning lecture VPC. All right, I'll attach this internet gateway. So you see, we were able to finish this part, this internet gateway part, right? So this whole process is finished now. So now let's go back and see if I'm able to connect to my VPC. Now there is another concept. We won't be able to connect, right? But I want you guys to understand. See, although I have created the internet gateway, right? You see, I'm still not able to connect. Although I have created this part, right? This part, this internet part, then gateway, I'm not able to go inside my VPC within my public subnet. Now understand what is the problem, right? Think about it. So when you think about it, now in the beginning of video, I told you that, okay, when you have created an internet gateway, you have the resource, but you have not defined that path. How will that traffic will flow this one point to another point? You have to define that traffic, so that the definition of the routing of that network traffic has to be defined inside your route table. So that's something that we haven't done so far. So you see, I'm still not able to get connect. So what I'll do, I'll go to internet gateway. All right, I'll go to my VPC, back to my VPC. I'll go to my route table. I'll select, there will be several, but I'll select my learning lecture. So there is one, right? So I'll rename this to public route table. All right, I'll go inside, and then I'll have to add a route. I'll say I will say from outside world, which is this. So this is the IP range from the internet, whatever traffic coming from the internet, from outside my VPC. I'm saying whatever comes from outside, you move it to your internet gateway. So I will reroute everything from my outside world to my internet gateway. So that's the route I'm defining, you see. So I'll say internet gateway. Okay, and then this, which internet gateway? This internet gateway. I'll say save changes. Alright, so I have defined this route properly. So now what I have to do is I have to go back and again try connect to my VPC. Alright, so I'll go back here. If I do so, All right, you see now I have connected and I'm inside my EC2 instance in public subnet. And how I made it possible, I created an Amazon EC2 instance within my public subnet, right? And then within my public subnet, from the outside world, I was not able to get connect, so I introduced something called internet gateway. So now my internet traffic will flow to the internet gateway, from internal gateway to my VPC, within VPC public subnet to my Amazon EC2 instance. Now, however, this route, whatever I said, this particular route has needs to be defined in the route table here, the public route table, right? That is the reason I've shown you everything, how how the traffic is flowing. So that's how you will be able to, if I do a ping, so I have access to the internet within my EC2 instance. You see, I'm able to ping google.com from my EC2 instance. All right. So this part is over now. Alright, this particular path is over now for creating the public subnet and all those things, etc. etc. Now I'll stop this video here and create another video to understand the private subnet and the other part of enabling the private subnet and then allowing the traffic using NAT gateway to private subnet. Okay, thank you guys.